When I saw the flames swallowing that white envelope, my breath stopped. The university seal, my future, was curling into ash in my stepmom's hands. "You don't need to go anywhere, Emily," she said calmly, her voice cutting sharper than the fire's crackle. "You belong here." At that moment, I realized she hadn't just destroyed paper. She'd burned everything I'd worked for since I was 12. Every late night, every tear on my textbooks, every dream of walking across a college campus. It was all melting into smoke. I thought my dream was over. But I didn't know that destiny had already written a twist she couldn't erase. Because 2 weeks later, when the knock came at our door, it wasn't a neighbor. It was the dean of Northbridge University, holding something that would turn my stepmom's world to ash instead. "My name is Emily Carter, and I grew up in a quiet town where dreams often faded before they had a chance to breathe. My mom passed away when I was 9, and my dad remarried a woman named Sandra 2 years later. She was beautiful, elegant, and polite when others were around. But when the doors closed, her words stung more than any slap could. Dad thought she was a blessing. But to me, she was a shadow, soft-spoken around him, cruelly silent toward me. She called me the leftover, said I had my mother's sad eyes, and complained that my presence weighed the house down. Still, I studied. Every night, while they watched TV downstairs, I sat by my desk, working toward one goal: Northbridge University, my late mother's alma mater. She'd been a literature professor there before cancer took her. It wasn't just a school to me, it was the last place she'd smiled. My father didn't understand why I obsessed over it. "It's expensive, Em," he'd say, rubbing his temples. "Maybe a local college would be fine." Sandra would nod sweetly beside him, whispering things like, "She's not ready for the world yet." But I kept applying, writing essays under the blanket of night, saving money from tutoring kids in the neighborhood. I wanted to make it happen on my own. And when that big white envelope finally came, with "Congratulations, Emily Carter," printed inside, I thought my mother would have been proud. I didn't know Sandra would see it first. It happened on a Friday afternoon. I'd just come home from school, still wearing my backpack when I smelled smoke from the backyard. I thought Dad was grilling again, until I heard Sandra's voice. "Some things," she said, tossing another envelope into the fire pit, "are better left unseen." My body froze. That was my name on the envelope. I ran forward. "Sandra, what are you doing? That's mine." She turned, smiling in that polite way she always did when she wanted to hurt me. "Oh, this?" She held up the corner of the burning letter. "You don't need to worry about college, Emily. Your father and I decided it's not practical. You should help around here instead. We could use the extra hand." Tears welled in my eyes as I watched the flames eat the last of the acceptance letter. "You had no right!" I screamed. Her face hardened. "I'm your stepmother. I have every right to protect this family from foolish decisions. College won't pay the bills, and we're already stretched thin." I tried to grab the ashes, but it was too late. My dream had turned to smoke. That night, when I told Dad what she'd done, he sighed, exhausted. "Sandra told me it was just a scholarship application, not an acceptance. You'll get another chance, Em." But there wasn't another chance. The enrollment deadline was 3 days away, and for the first time, I felt truly alone. The thing about losing everything is, it makes you remember every small thing that got you there. My mother used to tell me, "Dreams are stubborn, Em. Even when people try to bury them, they find light somehow." I used to believe that, but watching Sandra burn my future made me doubt every word. Still, I couldn't let her win. I went through the ashes, hoping maybe a piece of the letter survived. Anything I could show the university. All I found was a half-burnt corner of paper with part of the Northbridge seal. I kept it hidden in my drawer like a scar. The days that followed were worse. Sandra suddenly became nicer, making my favorite meals, smiling at dinner, pretending nothing happened. It was like she wanted me to play along, to forget the fire. But I couldn't. When I called Northbridge's admissions office, the line went silent after I explained what happened. "I'm sorry," the woman said. "Without the acceptance confirmation or enrollment deposit, we can't finalize your admission." I wanted to scream. But instead, I wrote an email to the dean himself, Dean Patterson, explaining everything. I didn't expect a reply. Meanwhile, Sandra told everyone in town that I wasn't accepted, saying maybe I'd aimed too high. Even my father began to believe her version. I started working part-time at a diner, saving what little I could. Some nights, I'd cry quietly in the staff bathroom, wiping my face before returning to take orders. And just when I began to think life had accepted my defeat, something unexpected happened. An email arrived from Dean Patterson. It said, "Emily, I'd like to speak with you personally about your application. Expect a visit soon." I thought maybe it was a cruel joke. Sandra even laughed when she saw me checking my phone. "Sure, honey," she said. "I'm sure the dean of a prestigious university has nothing better to do than visit a small-town nobody. But destiny doesn't need permission to surprise you." 2 weeks later, on a rainy morning, there was a knock at our door. Sandra opened it, wearing her silk robe, her fake charm plastered across her face. But the color drained when she saw who stood there. "Good morning," said a tall man in a gray coat, holding a briefcase and an umbrella. "I'm Dean Robert Patterson from Northbridge University. Is Emily Carter home?" Sandra blinked, stammering. Dean? University? There must be some mistake." I stepped forward from the hallway, heart pounding. "That's me," I said. The dean smiled kindly. "Emily, we received your message. I wanted to confirm something personally." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Inside was a printed copy of my official acceptance letter, along with my scholarship award. I gasped. You had another copy?" He nodded. "Of course. We archive everything. But what concerned us was your note about interference." He looked at Sandra. "May I come in?" Sandra's face turned pale. "Of course," she muttered, stepping aside. As the dean sat in our living room, the air felt heavier than smoke. My father came down the stairs, confused, while Sandra tried to smile through clenched teeth. "Your daughter," the dean said firmly, "was awarded one of our top merit scholarships. We were quite concerned to hear her acceptance letter was destroyed." My father turned to Sandra. "Destroyed?" Sandra's lips trembled. It must be a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. I showed the dean the burnt paper corner I'd saved. Silence filled the room like thunder before a storm. "Is this true?" my father asked, his voice shaking. Sandra looked between us, searching for a lie that could save her. I thought it was one of those fake letters. We get so many scams these days. I was trying to protect her." The dean raised an eyebrow. "You burned an official university document, Mrs. Carter. That's not protection, that's sabotage." My father's face hardened. "Sandra, you said she wasn't accepted." Sandra's voice cracked. "I didn't mean..." But the dean wasn't interested in her excuses. "Emily," he said to me, "you still have a place at Northbridge. And given the situation, we'll extend your enrollment deadline. Your scholarship remains intact." I couldn't speak. Tears filled my eyes. Then he turned to my father. "Mr. Carter, I'd advise you to ensure Emily has the support she needs. Students with her resilience don't come along often." And just like that, he stood up, shook my hand, and left the house, leaving the truth like a storm in his wake. When the door closed, my father turned to Sandra with eyes full of disappointment I'd never seen before. "You lied to me. You lied about my daughter's future." Sandra started crying, but it wasn't guilt. It was fear. "I just didn't want her to leave. She already takes all your attention." "Enough," he said. That night, she packed her bags. The silence that followed was strange, not peaceful, not painful, just new. My father came to my room later, sitting on the edge of my bed. "I'm sorry, Em. I should have believed you." For the first time in years, he hugged me, really hugged me. When I finally stepped onto the Northbridge campus that fall, I felt my mother in every breeze that touched my face. I carried her locket around my neck and my acceptance folder in my backpack, a reminder that even when life burns your plans, ashes can still grow something new. The first semester wasn't easy. Between adjusting to classes and working part-time, I barely slept. But every time I felt tired, I remembered that fire, and I refused to let it define me. One afternoon, I saw Dean Patterson walking across the quad. I ran up to him and thanked him again. He smiled and said, "No need, Emily. You're here because you earned it, not because someone handed it back to you." That night, I wrote my first essay for English literature. The topic was resilience. I ended it with one line. "Sometimes the fire that destroys your dream is the same one that forges your strength." Looking back, I understand now. Sandra didn't burn my letter because she hated me. She did it because she was afraid of being left behind. People destroy what they can't control. But no one can burn your destiny if it's truly yours. If you've ever had someone try to dim your light, remember this. Fire doesn't just destroy, it reveals what's strong enough to survive it. My stepmother taught me that sometimes betrayal is just a brutal form of guidance. Her act didn't end my future. It ignited it. And when I crossed the graduation stage 4 years later, I didn't just walk for myself. I walked for every dream that almost turned to ash. Because the truth is simple. You can burn a letter. You can lie about a dream. But you can't stop someone who's already set their soul on fire.